Hey, so you're wondering about doing a 48-hour fast. You've heard that it might be beneficial, but you're a little bit confused as to whether you should be doing it or not. Well, let me make the decision very easy for you. You really should give it a try. Okay, a 48-hour fast now and then, once a month, once every 2 months or so, is something that can just completely reset where you're at. Having trouble losing weight? Okay, maybe a 48-hour fast is what you need. Having trouble building muscle? Yep, maybe a 48-hour fast is what you need. Having trouble with maybe getting sick or dealing with things? Okay, 48-hour fast. It's a perfect reset. So in this video, we're going to talk about the 5 key benefits of a 48-hour fast, but we're not talking about it in just kind of an entertainment sense. I'm trying to give you a practical reason to give it a try, but also to arm yourself with some knowledge so you can dive right in and get the most out of it, knowing full well what's happening inside your body. So we're not going to waste any time. There's a red subscribe button, hit that sucker, and then there's a little bell icon. I appreciate if you'd hit that too so you get notifications. Let's dive right in. So there's some things we have to understand about a 48-hour fast. The main benefit of a 48-hour fast, I would argue, is not that you are going through caloric restriction. I mean, that's great. But I think that the main benefit is the massive surplus of ketones that arise when you are in an extended fast. It doesn't matter if you're doing a keto diet or not. That has nothing to do with this. The fact is, when you go for, say, longer than 16, 18, 24 hours without eating, you're going to produce ketones. It's your body's natural source of fuel when you don't have food coming in. Okay, so ketones aren't about fat loss. They're more about their healing properties and more about their almost hormone-like properties. Really, they do some pretty cool things. Now, to give you an example, the Journal of PLOS One published a study that found that when you took subjects that did a 12-hour fast versus a 72-hour fast, and I know we're talking about 48, but this study is 72, it found that at a 72-hour fast, the ketone levels were 15 to 20 times higher than they were at a 12-hour fast, indicating that it's a pretty significant increase in the amount of ketones that are in the blood once someone gets past about 24 hours. Okay. Now, the other thing that was interesting with this study is it found that people that were overweight, that had a good amount of fat on them, they had higher levels of free fatty acids in their bloodstream than the lean people did, which means that if you're overweight and you do an extended fast, you are more than likely going to start utilizing your own stored fat more than even a lean person would. It's like the body knows, hey, you've got some fat to burn, let's go ahead and evacuate it into the bloodstream so you can use it. But sure, the weight loss thing, that's all cool, but what we really want to talk about is how these high levels of ketones, these concentrated levels of ketones during an extended fast actually help heal the body, help get you more energy, and help your body burn more energy in a clean fashion. Okay, so let's explain how it does this. And I'm going to go scientific for a second, but please bear with me. Okay, we have this thing called the electron transport chain. This is a complicated system that you might remember from biology class, but basically what happens is this electron transport chain creates an electron gradient where electrons travel down a specific path and ultimately spin a little turbine. Now think of it like water going down a river and hitting a hydroelectric dam. Okay, they're spinning a turbine, and that's essentially how we create energy in our cells. Really it is. It's electricity spinning a turbine. The faster it spins the turbine, the more energy we create. Okay, what's interesting is that ketones have been shown to actually increase the velocity at which the electrons pass through that turbine. So it changes the ratio of the gradients. So basically more electricity or more potential energy can travel down the path and spin the pinwheel. So here's a way to explain it. You have a bowling ball. If you drop the bowling ball at 5 feet, it's going to hit the ground with X amount of force. But if you drop that bowling ball from 15 or 20 feet, it's going to hit the ground with more force, more potential energy. Ketones make it so that because the electricity changes ever so slightly, we're creating more energy, which means that we are conditioning the cells to naturally create more energy. So a 48-hour fast could be what you need to get yourself over this period of time where you have a bunch of slumps. Like if you're commonly having crashes at 2 p.m., 3 p.m., a 48-hour fast can actually reverse this whole system and break that pattern. It's a pattern interrupt that you need. But to make matters even better, another thing that it does is it causes energy to burn in a more clean fashion. Okay, so remember the electron transport chain I was talking about? Well, sometimes some of that electricity or those electrons escape outside of their pathway. Okay, so they're supposed to go directly to the pinwheel, but sometimes they escape and they go out into their bloodstream. And when they do that, they react with everything they touch. It's a bowl in a china shop. Okay, this electricity just goes, it's called reactive oxygen species. Maybe you've heard of that. It goes around and it just touches things and it causes something you've heard of before, oxidative stress. Okay? It turns out that ketones stop the leakage of those electrons. So ketones allow fuel to be burned more cleanly, so those electrons don't escape and cause that damage, which means your body takes more energy and harnesses it in a cleaner way, therefore making it so that you're more efficient at using energy. It truly is one of the most powerful ways you can reset your body. Okay, now we have to talk about the really cool one, BDNF and brain function. You might not be that interested in this, but trust me, at some point you will be hoping that you have more cognitive function. And a 48-hour fast, a couple times per year even, might be all you need to get yourself over that hump. Okay, first off, BDNF stands for brain-derived neurotrophic factor. Okay, and what it does is it helps strengthen neural connections, it helps grow new neurons. It's commonly referred to as brain fertilizer, okay? Now, there's a lot of different ways to boost BDNF, but fasting takes the cake. And you really don't start getting the effects of BDNF until you've been fasting for over 24 or 36 hours, to be completely honest. So it's really sort of what's called a hormetic response. A hormetic response is a body's response to stress. And what that means is whenever we have stress on our brain is going to do what it can to issue sort of protective measures, which means that the brain, in effect, gets stronger, right? What doesn't kill you does typically make you stronger. And in this case, we're stressing the brain out because we're not feeding it fuel. So it's getting the ability to adapt. And then when we do come off of our fast, our brain is magically left with something more powerful. It's like sending someone into training and then putting them somewhere else after they've been trained. It's like all of a sudden, that's just super easy. You've been training for a half marathon for a long time and then you're asked to run a 5K. It's like a breeze, right? So that's the way that your brain is functioning when it has high levels of BDNF. So the Journal of Applied Physiology and Nutrition Metabolism published a study that found that BDNF is elevated significantly after a longer fast, like a 48-hour fast. In this case, they took individuals and they had them do 3 different kinds of intense exercise. And then they had other individuals do a fast. Well, they found that those that were doing the different forms of exercise didn't really have huge changes in their BDNF levels. But those that did the fast had 3.5 times the BDNF levels that the others did. Okay, meaning that fasting is much more powerful at producing BDNF than intense exercise. However, I will say, just from my own experience, my own research, that there are certain ways you can exercise that improve BDNF, and I've done other videos on that, so don't discount that entirely. Okay, the point is that if you're trying to reset your brain a little bit, a 48-hour fast is going to be the quickest way to get a big surge of BDNF and kind of help you get through maybe these, let's call them IQ plateaus. Okay, one that we have to touch on here really quick is an obvious one, is going to be fat loss. Okay, fat loss during a 48-hour fast is supreme. Anything over a 48-hour fast, and I fear that you start to have some muscle wasting. Okay, they start to see that at 72 hours, you start having some atrophy occur, which means that you could be affecting your overall metabolism. Less lean muscle mass means less overall metabolism, right? So if we're looking at a 48-hour fast, it's kind of the sweet spot because ketones get super elevated. They're elevated enough to protect muscle breakdown, but they're also in that sweet spot where we are allowing the body to utilize stored fat for fuel much easier before saying, uh-oh, we got to pull out all the stops and start recruiting muscle too. You see, here's what ends up happening. With a longer fast, your body eventually needs more glucose. And it can't pull glucose from the liver anymore, it can't pull glucose from the muscles anymore, so it starts pulling it from breaking down your muscle tissue, which is okay in small amounts, but if you get to a point where you have to start doing that too much to maintain glucose, then you're going to run into a problem, right? That's when you start wasting muscle. So the 48-hour zone is like the sweet spot for a quick shot in the arm to burn some fat. There's a couple quick tips that you should remember just to make sure that you burn the most fat during a 48-hour fast, and that's going to be still continue to exercise as usual, okay, because that exercise is going to liberate the free fatty acids a lot more. Consume black coffee if you want, because black coffee is going to liberate those fats a little bit more as well, okay? It's also going to stimulate orexin, which is going to keep thermogenesis high, keep your body temperature high. So a little bit of coffee, a little bit of green tea is going to be your friend during a fast. Okay, the other thing that you want to make sure that you focus on is keeping your minerals in, keeping your salt and potassium in. It's okay to drink salt water on a fast because what it's going to do is it's going to help satisfy something known as an NST receptor. This NST receptor helps send a signal to the brain to keep you satiated, but it can also help assist in fat loss. I did put a link down below for Redmond Real Salt. That is a really top-of-the-line salt that us in the fasting community typically use. So there's a special link down below. So you just take some of that salt, add it into your water, do whatever you want, and that's a perfect salt to consume while you're fasting, whether it's 16 hours, 18 hours, 20 hours, all the way up to 72 hour and beyond, really. So drinking salt water is definitely a good thing. Usually like 2 teaspoons is all you need. So anyway, a little bit goes a long way. It's a dirt cheap way to improve your fast. So anyway, after you watch this video, do check them out down below. The other thing that's really important is how you break your fast, which we'll talk about in other videos. So I'll put some links down to how to break a fast down below so you see that in the description as well. Okay, now let's talk about the gut biome, because this is a really important one, and you're going to probably think that this is going to be boring, but I'm not talking about just a change in bloating or this and that. I'm talking about some serious changes in your gut biome that last you for a long time. You see, there's a study that was published in the Scandinavian Journal of Immunology. It found some interesting stuff. It found that test subjects that were doing alternate day fasting, I know it's not 48 hours, but it still applies, alternate day fasting, they found that those that were doing the alternate day fasting had significant reductions in quicker evacuations of Salmonella bacteria. So meaning when someone was sick and had bad bacteria in their gut, they were able to get rid of it really fast compared to others. Why is this? Well, they found that they had an increase in what is called immunoglobulin A, IgA. IgA is super, super important in the gut. And we often think that if we have high levels of immunoglobulins, it means that we're fighting off an infection. Not necessarily, okay? We always have them present. And in the gut, IgA has to be present. There are studies that have found that certain colonies of good bacteria cannot colonize properly in our gut in the absence of immunoglobulin A. So fasting changes that and elevates an immune response so that immunoglobulin A is activated. So what that means is that immunoglobulin A fights off the bad bacteria in our gut that's already existing and allows the good bacteria to flourish. So it also stabilizes the immune system within our gut. So what that means is going forward, we have the presence of good bacteria set forth by the orchestrator in our gut, not just because we did some random change that temporarily affected the gut bacteria. What I mean by that is some people will go throughout a fast and they'll just think that, okay, this is great, I rebalanced my gut bacteria, and then the second that I eat something, it's going to throw it off again. That's not really what happens. It can, for sure. But with a longer fast, you have these high degrees of IgA that go up, and that means that you're, I don't want to say permanently, but more longer term, affecting your gut biome. You are recolonizing the right immune activity so that that carryover effect can continue. The fast has done its job. Now your immune system does the job the rest of the way. And that only is going to occur if you're going over like 24 hours. So you really want to be pushing for these 48-hour fasts for that immune system response within our gut. And as an added side note with the gut biome, the journal Cell Metabolism published a study that found that when we are fasting and our gut biome shifts, it causes a subsequent beiging of white fat. And that just means that it takes some of our ugly white fat that doesn't do much and turns it into brown fat, which has thermogenic properties. So imagine a fat that sits on your body that does nothing but make you look well fat, and another fat that sits on your body that isn't as unsightly but also burns calories because it generates heat. Obviously, we want the one that generates heat. So journal Cell Metabolism proved that fasting and the change in the gut biome alters that white fat over to be more like brown fat. So that's just a fun fact. Lastly, one that you might have heard of before is autophagy. Okay, now let me give you a quick breakdown of what autophagy is without sounding super scientific. Imagine that you are a bakery. Okay, your body is a bakery, and you have all these different ingredients to make wonderful food. But at the end of making wonderful food, you have a bunch of scraps left over. But you have no trash can to throw them away in, right? You can't just get rid of them. So what can you do? You can try to shove them down the toilet, but it's probably going to clog your toilet. Or you could take those extra ingredients and recycle them and make something else. You've got a bunch of ingredients left over from banana bread that you made. Okay, take that banana and make some banana Foster pudding. Make something fun, right? That is autophagy in a nutshell. That's what's happening with your cells, right? Components of your cells are basically getting recycled and reassembled to be used in different ways. You get some benefit of this at 16, 20, 24 hours, but largely the benefits of autophagy kick in after 36 hours. So again, it's not that autophagy is the sole thing that we want to focus on with these, two-day fasts, but it really is the accomplice to all these other things that make you just an absolute warrior, whatever you're doing. You want that reset, do a 48-hour fast. Watch the videos on this channel and get motivated for it. You're gonna be okay. You're not going to get addicted to fasting. I don't want you to do them all the time. You're just doing this 48-hour fast as a reset to get your body going. Whenever you feel like you need a reset, you hop on board, you do 36 to 48-hour fast, and bam, you're back on track. So as always, do keep it locked in here on this channel. Check out the other videos, put them down in the description, just make sure you're subscribing, and I'll see you soon.